Hello, everyone. I am honored to be your keynote speaker to close out an awesome Gears Day. My name is Dani Schroeder, and my pronouns are she and her. Today, I will be speaking about engineering in college and beyond. Let's get into how I found myself studying engineering and then becoming an engineer. So a little bit about me in terms of elementary school and younger years. My first inspiration into engineering started at home, literally. My dad is a carpenter and he built the house I grew up in. So in that photo on the left, this is my dad and my grandpa who were adding shingles to the roof in that photo. And that photo in the center is me at the age of 2 or so in one of the cabinets next to the empty spot where a refrigerator would soon be. As I got older, I learned more about the construction side of things, and through side projects around the house, as well as hearing about the projects my dad was working on, I learned how awesome construction can be. Beyond this, as a kid, I loved playing with Legos and also enjoyed mystery novels like Cam Jansen or Encyclopedia Brown. I only recently connected this love of mystery novels to engineering since the problem solving in these books of the whodunit is similar to the critical thinking skills used in engineering. Also, math was my favorite subject growing up and still is to this day. Into high school, I really liked math and learned to like science more. This photo on the top right is from my honors physics class. One day we had an outdoor class and we pushed a car to learn about acceleration. So we graphed the change in position over time and using integrals calculated the acceleration for the car. But I also had other interests like drama club, where I was in all the fall plays and spring musicals, as well as I was on my school's tennis team. And with my working knowledge of construction from a very young age and my love of math and science, you would have thought that I learned about engineering as a possible career now. But it actually took until my junior year of high school to learn about engineering. That year, I attended an engineering girls camp at a local college where I met young women currently studying engineering, similar to what you are all doing now and the past 2 days, along with professionals in a variety of engineering disciplines. I got to do a bunch of different labs, and I primarily loved the ones that were focused on civil engineering. This camp taught me that civil engineering would be the perfect profession for me, as it combines construction with the application of math and science through problem solving. So civil engineering was the major I chose when submitting college applications. I applied to about 5 schools or so and ended up attending Drexel University for their 5-year program. Throughout their 5 years, I completed 3 different internships that were 6 months each, so that I could figure out how that classroom theory relates to the real world, or real world as I like to say it. Throughout my co-ops, I explored both the public and private side, different sides of companies, as well as many different fields in civil engineering. I liked the structural and transportation work of my co-ops best, so I used that when picking some of those general education classes or the flex classes I had later in my years of college. I also used these co-ops to help me choose my focus for my master's, part of the BSMS Accelerated Degree Program. I took the FE, or the Fundamentals of Engineering exam, in January of 2017, and thankfully passed the first time I took it. Lastly, I was highly involved in student organizations, primarily SWE, or Society of Women Engineers, and held several leadership positions during my time, including section president. In January of my senior year, I interviewed at a few places, including one at my full-time at one of my past co-ops, and ultimately joined Pennoni as a bridge engineer. Up until the present, I'm still a bridge engineer at Pennoni in their headquarters in Philadelphia, and I've gotten to work on some amazing projects, such as the retrofit design for the Burlington-Bristol Bridge. That photo on the top over here was from the construction phase of that project, and this is from one of the inspections during that, which was really cool. And as you can see, I have my safety harness on, so I have the safety and I am clipped on because safety is a priority in any of our projects. In terms of certifications, once I graduated, since I already passed the FE exam in college, I applied to become an EIT, or engineer in training. I also attended training for 2.5 weeks and passed the associated exam to become a CBSI, or Certified Bridge Safety Inspector. And similar to college, I'm still highly involved in SWE. Currently, I'm in my second of 3 years as a SWE senator, and the SWE Senate is about 40 SWE members. That includes SWE senators like myself, the Senate leadership, and the SWE Board of Directors. And then there's just a circle to show me and the group of everyone. So as for 2020 particularly, in late February, I had the opportunity to travel to Universal Studios in Florida for the first time since the Wizarding World of Harry Potter opened, and got to visit Platform 9 3/4, as you can see by the GIF at the top. And I've been working at home since March. The photo on the bottom left is my setup from where I'm presenting to you right now. In July of 2020, my partner and I adopted a dog named Nemo, who may end up making an appearance during this call. Now that you know a bit more about me and my journey into engineering, I want to shift to some lessons learned about studying engineering that I learned through my college experience. And to add a little bit of spice, I will be relating each lesson to Hermione Granger. If you're familiar with the Harry Potter series, she was one of the leads. And through the series, we find out that she's a master's in her potions class and many other classes at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. So while this is a fictional story, I think if Hermione was real, she would have been an amazing chemist or chemical engineer, which is why I think she relates to today's talk. I grew up reading this book series and enjoyed the movies as well. And Emma Watson, who plays Hermione in the movies, is also an amazing role model and has many accolades beyond the Harry Potter franchise. One of my favorites is her role as one of the primary ambassadors for the He for She movement under the United Nations Women. Fun fact, there's also been several He for SWE committees and groups created that were inspired by this UN Women movement. Most recently in the series, there is a He for SWE society level affinity group that was started in 2020. And don't worry, if Harry Potter is not your jam, you don't necessarily need to know the series because I'm going to be relating each lesson to my own college experience. Lesson 1 is find your squad. And anyone who knows the Harry Potter series knows that Ron and Harry were Hermione's squad. And she was an important part of that squad, especially considering in both the book and movie adaptation, Harry Potter is not actually shown casting any spells during the first book or movie in the series. Through spells, gaining knowledge through research in the library, sometimes even the restricted section, and thinking on her feet, Hermione often digs her squad out of dangerous situations. I would go even as far as saying she's more often the real hero, as she was instrumental to the team's success time and time again throughout the series. Generally speaking, finding a friend or support group early on is important in college, especially when studying engineering. And they don't necessarily even need to be in your major. Having a good group of people where you all support each other on your paths can really enhance your college experience. Especially when you are having difficulties with various classes, a support squad is there to help cheer you up, or even cheer you on when you say yes to something outside your comfort zone, as shown in that bottom photo. For me, I found my support squad through SWE and ASCE, or the American Society of Civil Engineers, on my campus. And I would encourage you to join groups on your campus that interest you, because as I mentioned before, your squad doesn't necessarily need to be from your same major. As you may know, the engineering field and studying engineering is still mainly dominated primarily by men. I distinctly remember that in my first year, there was a coding class series that every engineer had to take. And I don't remember the first class in the series, but I do distinctly remember going into the second class in this series, looking around the room and realizing I was the only woman in a class of 30 at this coding class. So another reason to build your squad when studying engineering. Through my squads, I learned the importance of peer mentorship, as students who were even just the year above me were so helpful in terms of classes selection, textbooks and other materials, internships, resume review, or even just advice in general. Lesson 2, sometimes you will fail. In the second part of the series, Hermione makes a polyjuice potion, which is a complex and time-consuming concoction and is typically best left for highly skilled witches and wizards. The potion allowed the drinker to assume the form of someone else, which Hermione, Ron, and Harry want to use to become various Slytherin students to interrogate Draco Malfoy. After Hermione successfully makes this highly complex potion, she ends up failing in the execution of the potion. So to turn into that specific person, you need something from that person you want to turn into, and typically hair is used. And instead of pulling a human hair off the robes of the girl she wanted to turn into, the hair that Hermione pulls belongs to the girl's cat, results in Hermione temporarily becoming that humanoid feline as shown in this bottom photo. As brilliant and hardworking as Hermione was, she still made mistakes and even failed, and so will you, as you are human. I personally failed many times through studying engineering, as it is a challenging major. As I talked about my high school days, I didn't mention that I was in the top 10 students of my class and primarily got straight A's. College was a different story. I have had many failures as an engineering student, including actual failures, as I did on physics exams, and then I ultimately withdrew from the Fundamentals of Physics 2 class that first year of college. I ended up taking this class again as a night course during co-op, and ended up with a B+ this time around, as I found the subject easier the second time around, as well as I could focus more on the studying when it was my only class. Looking back at my time at college, I wish I focused more on the hard work and learning the material rather than the grades or trying to get straight A's, especially when most of these grades came from exams. Taking exams is stressful and does not define how much you know as a student. In reality, we as engineers do not have to memorize hundreds of formulas or have a limited time to solve a problem in a high-stress situation as similar to the exam format that you're most commonly used. More on the lighter side, I've been starting to post reels to my Instagram, and while not complete failures, I've definitely messed up with the text animation or forgot to add a cover a few times, but I'm getting better with practice and more familiar with the tool. This takes us to lesson 3. People skills are as important as the technical skills. As shown by the top and very famous GIF about Leviosa versus Leviosa, Hermione's people skills, or sometimes mentioned as soft skills, needed a little bit of work in the first movie. When it came to interviewing for co-ops throughout the years, while they did ask me about my classes and what I was learning, most of the interviews focused on those people skills like communication and teamwork. So while high grades can get you in the door for an interview, hiring people also want to know that you are teachable and can work well on a team. The second GIF is also from the first movie, where she talks to herself out loud saying, "Oh no, okay, relax," most likely out of nervousness, before walking into the sorting hat to be placed on her head. And I will be the first one to admit that networking still makes me nervous. But the way you get better at something is through practice, and that networking can lead to your first internship and another awesome future opportunity. One networking tip that helped me with my nervousness, especially with career fairs, is that I first focus on SWE rather than myself. So the first career fair I went to was my first year of college, and I wasn't looking for a co-op yet. So I went there with a few Drexel SWE business cards to chat with some companies, and professional societies like SWE can help you work on those people skills and are a great way to get leadership experience. Skills like communication will always be important to your engineering career, regardless of your role, and professional societies are a great way to work on these skills. I know networking and getting out of your comfort zone can be terrifying. I still get really anxious when it comes to public speaking, and I'm getting better at it. But again, the way you get better at something is you keep trying. It's a very old example, but think about riding a bike for the first time. How terrible did that go? You may have fallen off, racked up a lot of scraped knees like me. as you learned, but you kept trying and eventually you learned how to ride a bike. That's the same when it comes to public speaking, communication skills, any of those things. You get better by practicing. Another way that I've gotten more comfortable with public speaking is through STEM outreach like today. Talking to an audience primarily about my journey or any topic that I'm very familiar with helps you to build confidence. So when I'm asked to speak at a larger event, like the one shown at the bottom of the screen right here, where one of my fellow panelists was a CEO of an engineering company, or even asked to speak on a highly technical topic, I have that confidence because I'm familiar with getting in front of an audience and speaking. Lesson 4, start a passion project. So it may only be in the books, but the Society for the Promotion of Elfish Welfare, or SPEW, was an endearing aspect of Hermione's character that I loved reading about. This is an organization founded by Hermione in the Goblet of Fire, so book 4, after seeing the gross, unjust treatment of house elves during the Quidditch World Cup. She was passionate about this topic and decided to take charge personally. And I want to encourage you all to find something that you're passionate about and create a project around it. Off theme of Harry Potter, but another amazing example is Emily the Engineer, or Emily Yared. She just graduated with her mechanical engineering degree and has posted a now viral video of how she 3D printed a replica of the famed Iron Man suit, as you can see in this photo. Emily loves the world of Marvel, similar to myself. So she took her passion from that and combined it with a skill of learning 3D printing and modeling, which is relevant to her college major. So my passion project has been my blog and associated social media, where I talk about my career journey so far, as well as share tips that I've learned through college, kind of like today. It has also been a neat way to track my progress with goals while still helping others simultaneously. I've also loved the connections that I've made through this project. Also, if you see someone in a career that you're interested in on social media or an event or a current engineering student that you connected with the past few days and want to learn more about what they've learned, or even just like what student life looks like from their eyes, or any other question, reach out to them and ask to set up a call. More often than not, you'll get a yes, because as a professional or a current engineering student, we want to help those who are trying to figure out what major or what they want to study in college. And lastly, we have lesson 5. Do not be afraid to ask questions. Hermione is the epitome of someone who is not afraid to raise her hand to answer questions, but also to ask questions throughout the series. I personally wish I knew earlier in my college career what free services were offered at my campus, like student counseling or the free tutoring through the College of Engineering. So I recommend that you utilize your college academic advisor and ask those questions and ask about the resources. This advisor can also be a great resource for students who may not know what major they're specifically thinking about. I know at Drexel, there's a general engineering that you can go into, and then as you progress through your first year, you can then pick a major. But especially in engineering, there can be a lot of majors that sound very similar on paper, but are quite different in practice. So that academic advisor can help provide you with some background information or put you in contact with professors to answer any of those technical questions you may have. This can help save a lot of time and stressing in helping you decide what major would be the best fit for you. Also, make sure you ask when your professor's office hours will be, if they're not already listed in the syllabus. Office hours were key when I was struggling with the class. And going back to lesson 4, if there is help that you need with your passion project, or even just a goal you're trying to accomplish, be your own advocate and don't be afraid to ask others for help. In terms of advocating for myself and others, there are many times I did this through college, one of which was funding for SWE conference. I worked with my SWE team to put together funding proposal for our College of Engineering to fund a few of us to travel to and attend society conference. But then, since I was the only one on campus, I ended up being the one that had to go by myself to meet with the Dean of Engineering about this proposal. And I'm proud to say that we've received at least partial funding to attend a society conference. It's my second year of Drexel. And then SWE has an award called the Outstanding Collegiate Member. And for that award, it is recommended to have at least 3 letters of support. So my senior year of college, I advocated for myself and asked the leader of the Philadelphia SWE section at the time if they could write 1 letter, and then worked with my Drexel SWE section leaders for another, and then my Drexel SWE counselor for the 3rd one. I put together the rest of the award application, applied, and thankfully was ultimately awarded the OCM award at SWE Society Conference in 2016, which is this photo on the left. I also wanted to extend this lesson to also include, don't be afraid to apply. As the great Wayne Gretzky, or Michael Scott, if you watch The Office, says, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Sometimes you'll fail and things won't go perfectly to plan. But if you don't make that ask, if you don't try, the answer is no, because you just didn't try. Take that into consideration and submit that application. A lot of the success I've had so far, even in college, was, you know what, let me submit that application. Maybe I'll get it, maybe I won't. Another example is the photo on the bottom left. In the summer of 2016, I applied for the ASE Construction Institute Student Days, where students from all over the country can apply. I submitted and not only got into the program, but was selected as one of the 16 leads and had an amazing time at the event. I also saved this important lesson for last, as this lesson will be important no matter what stage you are in your engineering career. When I talk to young engineers starting their first job, the main advice I give is don't be afraid to ask questions. Especially as a young engineer, you aren't expected to know everything. So make sure you speak up when you're given a task and you're not sure how to proceed. Your team is there to help you learn and gain the critical technical skills for you to thrive in your field. If you take anything away from today's talk, I want you to know that you can do it. No matter how tough it gets, no matter about that failed grade in a difficult class, please don't give up. There's a lot of technical knowledge that I learned in college through classes that I don't directly use as an engineer, but studying engineering teaches you those critical thinking skills and how to break down any problem that'll come your way. Push through, give it your all, and you will succeed and graduate with your engineering degree. Thank you for having me, and here is my contact information. Any questions?